All right, so let's take a look at decorator pattern. Okay, so this is also a very useful, very flexible pattern that deal with some kind of change. Okay, let's take a look at what kind of benefits we can get from decorator pattern. All right, so here's the intent of decorator pattern, and it tries to dynamically attach some additional responsibility. It provides a flexible alternative to subclassing using the subclasses, and then it will try to make the object transparent to the decorating object transparent to the core component. Okay, so it's a very formal definitions, but it's very similar to the way wrappers work. Okay, let's take a look at some examples. Now, this example is from the book. So in the book, we're talking about the old style UI system we're trying to build. And then here, let's say you have this text editor, but then you want to do some kind of decorations on the UI. The decorations could be scroll bars, okay, and then could be borders. So the border, for example, you can have a plain border, no border, and a 3D border, some kind of fancy border. You can always add other type of borders for the scroll bar, and then you can add horizontal bar and vertical bar, and maybe something else, right? Like pop-up bar or something else. So there are all of different kind of decoration you can apply. And then for any kind of a UI system, you might be able to do different combinations. For example, I can choose to use a text view with plain border or 3D border. I can also choose to use plain border plus horizontal scrolling bar, or I can do fancy border with horizontal scroll bar and also vertical scroll bar. So there are so many combinations that you can see given this kind of options for different kind of widget and different decorations. And then obviously, if you're trying to make every single combination a kind of a configuration class, you will need to have 15 different subclasses. So that's obviously kind of a very hard to manage. So a very simple way to deal with the issue is that we use compositions. So for example, in the text view, you could have two specific references, one pointing to border, one pointing to the scroll bar. And then you build two different kind of hierarchies, and then for different type of scroll border, you use subclasses. And also for different kind of a scroll bar, you use subclasses as well. So that's an easy way to solve this problem. All you need to do is to pass a specific border or a specific scroll bar to this parent class. Um, but this is obviously not perfect. Okay, a couple issues. Number one issue is that if you do this one, okay, and it depending on how you define the reference, maybe you can only do one border, one scroll bar. And if you want to have multiple one, you probably need to have a list. Okay, so you have to basically specify something here to indicate how many kind of decoration you want. And also, you cannot control things like order. Like I want to apply the border first and then some of the bars second, something like that. All right. And then also, as we mentioned here in the slides, this is not really open close. Now think about what if we are adding a new type of widget, beside the border scroll bar, you're probably adding some title, window, you're adding some of the actions, and then that's going to allow you or force you to build extra reference here and extra hierarchies. So even though this looks like a very good inheritance kind of hierarchy, but there are limitations to deal with this kind of changes. All right. So the ultimate solution would be to use the decorator pattern. Okay, let's take a look at this pattern briefly. So what you're trying to do here is you still have this two hierarchies for your decoration. So that part remains the same. But then the difference is that we're trying to split the decoration part into a separate hierarchy without using the composition. So the things to be decorated is still an independent class like a text view. Okay, the text view had nothing to do with the decorators. Then we can apply the decorators on top of the text view, and then we can apply as many as we want in any kind of order we want. All right. In order to do that, we actually use this kind of a pattern or structure, which is similar to the composite pattern. Let's take a look. So basically, both the decorator and the text view belong to this parent class. Okay. We call it visual component. But the difference between the text view and the decorator is the decorator can have a reference back to the visual component. That means the decorator can decorate some kind of a component. Okay, now obviously the decorator can decorate a text view, but also the decorator can decorate another visual component, which could be another decorator. So that's how you can wrap all the decorator one after another. If you have this kind of wrapping functionality, you don't need to worry about order, you don't worry about how many decorators you can apply. You just need to wrap them in many ways that you want. Okay, so that's the high level idea about this pattern. So we can take a look at example and see how this pattern can be applied in practice. Okay, now this is a more general purpose description of this pattern. So you got a component and a concrete component and decorator. Okay, the key is that the decorator could have a reference to the parent to decorate, to indicate what we want to decorate. And then all the decorating stuff goes to here as subclasses so that you can, every decorator can wrap another one. All right. So this is really important because this reference allows the decorator to be able to indicate another level of things to decorate. It could be component, concrete component. It could also be another decorator. Okay. So these are more detailed breakdown, and you need to have this component interface or parent class. You need to have the concrete component that this one doesn't have anything connected with decorator itself directly, and the decorator is another hierarchy, and then you can build the concrete decorators just like this. But the concrete decorator, they can do anything they want, but at the same time they have the access to the components, so they can also call the components for operations. All right, so let's take a look at this concrete example. So let's say that we want to do some kind of a ticket printing. Okay, so different ticket, we have different information to put. Now, besides the most important information about some of the ticket events, time and date, all these details, we might want to do some decorations, things like a bottom footer. What do you print? Barcode, some of the sponsors, and also the header, right? So we can use the footer and header the example to show this idea. So here's the requirements that you are trying to do the sales ticket printing, and then we can add header and footer, and also at different occasions we might want to change the header and footer to show the holiday information, to show some other special information. All right, the solution must be very flexible. All right, so let's see how this one works. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to Eclipse. All right, so I already created a Java project called Decorator Pattern Demo. Okay, so in this one, I am going to create a class. Okay, I'm going to start with one version that doesn't not use a decorator pattern. So I'm going to do, for example, a event ticket. All right, so this is a basic event ticket that has some information in it. So for example, it has event name, and maybe we do something like a price of the ticket. All right, so I'm going to get this ones here with some getter and setters. So you can set up all these attributes. All right. And a very important thing is that you need to do a printing. Okay, so I'm creating a method called a print ticket. All right, here I'm going to show some kind of information like print name and also price. I can just make a little bit decoration here just to indicate this is like a little ticket. All right, so let's assume that you create an event ticket object and that you can print ticket to print this ticket up, right? So I'm going to create a new driver class. Okay, I'll call it driver. This one has a main method. All right, so from here, I'm going to call event ticket. All right, and then event ticket, I can set the name. This one to be Lakers versus maybe which team we're going to play with. Houston. All right. And we set the price. This one will be $50. And then you can call event ticket.print ticket, right? So if I run this program, and then you can see the print, the ticket information printed. let me make sure I run it. Okay, so yeah, something wrong with my computer here. It's really slow right now, but it's get the result here. Okay, print event information, also the price. Okay, so that's how the basic ticket works. But this one doesn't have much decoration. I want to add some footer and header, right? So I'm gonna add, for example, here, I'll do for example, let's do a header decorator. Now this one, I can say that I will just do a public void and then print header, right? So I'm gonna print some header. Maybe we'll print like sponsors, right? So I'll do a sponsor by company name, all right? By Cal Poly. So you can obviously put an attribute here. I just want to show the example very quickly, just one type of a decorator. And maybe you can also do a footer decorator. Okay, so I'm gonna have this thing called print footer. Okay, so maybe this one will be something about future event, right? Future event, December 10th, it's all-star game pre-sales, something like that. Okay, just some random information to show you this is kind of a footer. I can do more the kind of a decoration, just like this. All right, so I got a footer and a header decorators. Now, without using the pattern, one thing you can do, as I mentioned, you can have a reference. Okay, so you can have something called a footer decorator. Okay, and then you can also have a header decorator. All right. Now, we can set footer together. All right. So if you have this, now we can create a footer decorator. As well as header. All right. Now the event ticket could set the footer as well as and now we can then print the ticket. But this time it will not do anything because we have not used that footer together yet, right? So I can run this one here. Okay, so it's not printing. So what I need to do is go here to say that if you are printing the ticket, I need to print to use the header, print header first, and then I do the footer, and then print the footer first afterwards. So now I go back here, run this program, and then you got a header and also footer. Okay, so that's something you can do without using any of the decorator pattern. Okay, now this is only one. Now, if you want to build the second one, you probably will need a hierarchy for the footer and the header. So for example, I do this very quick. I'm gonna do a footer decorator 2 and also the header decorator 2. I'm gonna do 2 type. Okay, to make this one simple, I'm just gonna change this one. Okay, I will do the v2 so that you know that is the version 2. Okay, so v2 here, just 2 types. But then if you have 2, it's better kind of to have an interface to group them, right? So for example, I can just create a new interface just call it a footer. Okay, footer. I'll just make an interface, and then this one will have a method called a print. Right. Now I can also do an interface called header. Now with this one can implement footer. And then same thing here. So this one will be implement header. And then header. All right. So now you got a two hierarchy. Now the ticket could be changed with a footer and header, right? So we also need to modify these ones to redo the getter and setter. All right. Now in this case, you can supply different kind of a decorator, right? So this one will become an interface. Okay, I can choose 2 and version 2. Now when I run this, all right, you both used version 2 now. Okay, so this is a scenario where it's a big improvement because now you got a one hierarchy just for footer, level header, and then you can extend new decorators. But as I mentioned, it's not very flexible in terms of controlling how many more type you want. For example, we're going to add another one called window or pop-up or dialog. Then you have to go back here to change this references. And also right now, it only support one. And if you want to support multiple one, you have to do a list, right? So this is not a perfect solution. So I'm going to change the system into a one that uses the decorator pattern, and you will see the difference. So with that, I'm going to copy and paste the whole thing into the second version. I'll call it V2. All right. And then right now I start with the same code base, but I'm going to change that into using decorator pattern. So I need to go back and then take a look at how the decorator pattern works. Okay. So basically, to highlight the idea that we have a hierarchy that deals with the concrete component and the decorator, but then we split them together, split them separately, but then in the same hierarchy. Okay, so in other words, this ticket here, event ticket, should not have anything about the footer and header information. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of those. A ticket should only deal with printing the things by themselves. And then this one should not be applied to here. So, all right, so that is a sales ticket. However, we do need a hierarchy. We'll call it component. All right, component. And maybe we'll make it this one as interface. And then in this case, I'm going to create a method called a print ticket. So the event ticket is a component. All right, so we already have this method. But at the same time, we want to build the decorator also to be a component. So I'm going to create a new decorator. Okay, I'll call it ticket decorator. Now this one should also becomes a type of component. So that means you will also need to have something for printing the ticket. Okay, so let's not worry about the printing ticket for now. The most important part about this pattern, as you can see, the decorator must have a reference to the thing, to the component we want to decorate. So that requires a reference. So what we want to do now is to print private component, call it component. All right, so we must have this one. And then we can have a getter and setter. We can also have maybe a constructor. That's probably easier. So I'll do a constructor. So anytime when you try to use a decorator, then you have to pass a component that we want to decorate. And then at the same time, you can specify how you would like to print this ticket. All right, so let's change one of our like a footer or getter to see how that one fits to this decorator hierarchy. Now remember, all the decorator becomes subclass of this decorator class. Okay, so I'm going to change this one by one. Okay, so let's, first of all, I don't need this footer anymore. Okay, I'm going to delete that because everything is a type of decorator. Okay, I don't need a footer or header interface. I'm going to delete this one for now. And then let's take a look at the specific type. Okay, this one should be a ticket decorator. Okay. Now we need to fix the constructor because we will need to take a component. All right. At the same time, you will need to also override the print, footer. Not a print footer, but then you will need to deal with how do you print a ticket. You can override that one. Now, since we have this reference to the component, and then since I have a way to print our footer here, now all we need to do is inside this, print ticket, we want to do something called a component. And since we don't have the access, we can get a component, and we'll say want to print the ticket first. After that, we'll print the footer. All right, so let's take a look at how this one works. So the footer decorator is a decorator, and then you can pass the component you want to decorate, and then when people are calling print the ticket, it will do the get component thing first, and then after that, you print you add the decoration you want, which is right here, just to print more footer. Okay, so I'm also going to fix one for the header. So for the header, it's also going to extend or ticket decorator. Same thing that you will need to have a constructor ready. And then you need to talk about how do you deal with the print ticket. For print ticket, let's make sure that we got our component, okay, to print with whatever method they have. We don't worry about this part because they deal with that one. But we are printing the header, so I'm going to add my header logic right here. Okay, so that this one will be executed first. Okay, so if you have this kind of structure, okay, when you start to use this one, okay, the things got to change a little bit. So this one all become a decorator. Ticket decorator, right? As you do the decoration, well, you need to basically specify what do you want to decorate. For example, the footer want to decorate this event ticket. So I'm going to pass the event ticket inside. All right. So that is, oh wait, let's actually make sure that this one is correct. Not the footer 2, sorry. Haven't touched the footer 2 yet. I'm going to do the footer decorator 1. Okay, so you pass event ticket. That means this foot decorator want to decorate this event ticket. And then the header want to decorate this one because this is going to wrap this whole decoration plus the ticket. So I can do something I call a footer. Yes. And then with this, I don't need to set them anymore. All I need to do eventually is call header.print ticket. And that's going to give us the same result. Let's try it. So I'm going to run this application. All right, so now you got a header, ticket, and your footer. Okay, so this way is maybe a little bit confusing. Okay, so to make it a little bit better, I'm going to rewrite this part and take a look at. So I'm going to do a component called a ticket. Okay, so maybe I'm going to use this interface here. Okay, call it ticket. Sorry, this is not going to be changed, but component dot, I'll call it final ticket, will be a new, for example, a footer decorator with this event ticket. Okay, and that's what we're doing here. Also, I want to decorate this one more. Header decorator. Also want to apply the header. So I'm going to delete this part here. And then finally, I just need to call this one here to get it. Okay, so now if I try to run this program again, and it's the same result. As you can see, this is how the wrapper works. Decorator wrap this ticket, and the header wrap this one. But then when you call this, okay, it's going to execute the code level by level. All right. Now let me fix the other part of the code so that we can see the final picture. Now, in order to make this one better, I'm gonna go back, change something here. Okay, so the decorator, take a decorator, and then since this one is not really used here, what we can do is mark that as the abstract class. Okay, so I don't want to implement it here. Okay, but then mark this one as an abstract class. So all the classes like subclass must implement this method. Okay, they must do this one here. And then same thing here, they must do it. So I'm gonna extend this one to ticket decorator. Okay, so you have to implement this one here, and we need to get component, print ticket, but at the same time, we will need to print our header. All right, and then we need to also fix the constructor. And then finally, let's fix this one as well. I'm gonna extend ticket decorator, fix a bunch of things, and implement the method and also the constructor. So when you print this one here, you're gonna get component, print ticket, and then talk about how you want to print your footer. So you got our footer here. All right, so now we got two different type of footer and headers. So in a driver, if I want to apply all of them, you can just keep going. Okay, I can just do another, for example, footer decorator 2, and just wrap the whole thing here. Okay, so let me write it in a different way. Maybe it's easier to see it. Okay, it's really using this kind of wrapping style, and then try to run it. So you got two kind of footers being applied because you use the footer 2 and the footer 2 here. Okay, so this is how things become really flexible because you don't need to worry about how many you want, what's the order, and you just need to add and more decorators as long as it follows the ticket decorator interface. So that is how the decorator pattern works. But really important two things. Number one, you will need to merge this one into the same hierarchy. And just like the composite pattern, this one should have a reference go back to its parent so that you can form this kind of wrapping relationship. And the decorators only deal with the decoration, but calls the component for the regular operations. But you can add everything before or after. Okay, so that's how the decorator pattern works. Okay, so I will post this code here, and then we will talk about next pattern next time.